I'll never forget the first time she touched me. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't rough either. It was calculated, like she was testing me, waiting to see how far I'd let her go. The thing is, I let her. She leaned close, her perfume thick in the air, and whispered, "Relax. You don't have to worry anymore." Those words should have been a comfort, but instead, they felt like shackles. Because I knew the second I accepted her help, I wasn't free anymore. That night, lying in her bed, staring up at the cracked ceiling of her apartment, I tried to convince myself I was making the best of a bad situation. That this was temporary. That as soon as I got back on my feet, I'd pay her properly, and this would all end. But when I crept back down to my own apartment at dawn, the envelope of rent money still sitting untouched on my counter, I realized I'd already crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The next few weeks became a blur. I'd hear her footsteps in the hallway late at night, and my stomach would knot up, wondering if she'd knock on my door. Sometimes she would, sometimes she wouldn't, but every time she did, I answered. I told myself I didn't have a choice. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was addicted. Not to her exactly, but to the relief. The temporary escape from the crushing anxiety of my life. For a few hours, I didn't feel like a failure. I didn't feel like a man drowning in bills and regrets. I felt wanted. That was the most dangerous part. Then came the night everything shattered. I was heading up the stairs, late from a shift at the diner, when I heard laughter spilling from her apartment. It was familiar. Too familiar. I froze. The door was slightly ajar, just enough for me to catch a glimpse. And there he was. Chris, my best friend since high school. The guy who'd crashed on my couch 100 times. The guy who'd once lent me his car so I could take a girl on a date. The guy who'd promised me, over and over, "Don't worry, man. I've got your back." He was sitting on her couch, his arm draped over her shoulders like he belonged there. And the look in her eyes, it was the same look she'd given me. My stomach dropped. My hands shook. I wanted to kick the door down, drag him out by his collar, scream in his face. But I didn't. I backed away, each step heavier than the last, until I was back in my apartment, slamming the door behind me. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, my vision blurred. The one person I thought I could trust, my brother in everything but blood, was in her apartment, laughing with her, touching her like what I thought we had was nothing. And maybe it was nothing. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. I replayed every moment with her, every word she whispered to me, and realized maybe she'd whisper the same to him. Maybe to others too. It wasn't about me. It was never about me. I was just convenient. 2 weeks later, the hammer dropped. A knock on my door. I opened it, and there she was, leaning against the frame with that same unreadable smile. "Upstairs." "Now," she said. I shook my head. "Not tonight." Her smile didn't falter. She just tilted her head and said, "If you don't come, I'll tell everyone what you've been doing to cover rent. Your neighbors, your boss, maybe even your family, if you're still in touch with them." My blood ran cold. She had me. Completely. When I didn't move, she added softly, "Chris is waiting." Chris. That name hit harder than her threat. I wanted to slam the door in her face. I wanted to scream, but I didn't do either. I followed her up the stairs like a man, being led to his own execution. What happened in that apartment still feels like a blur, like my brain refuses to process it fully. The three of us. Her orchestrating everything like she was conducting some sick performance. Chris acting like it was no big deal, like it was just another night of fun. Me. I felt like a ghost inside my own body, going through the motions, hating myself with every second that passed. When it was over, I stumbled back to my apartment, locked the door, and collapsed on the floor. I sat there until the sun came up, my face buried in my hands, tears I didn't even know I had left soaking through my palms. I'd lost everything that night. My dignity, my friendship, my sense of self. After that, I avoided Chris completely. I ignored his texts, dodged his calls. When I saw him in the hallway, I turned the other way. I couldn't look him in the eye, not because of what he did, but because of what I allowed. And her, she didn't stop. The knocks kept coming. The threats. The reminders that she owned me now, in ways I could never undo. I started drinking. Heavily. Anything to numb the shame, to drown out the voice in my head that kept whispering, "You chose this. You let this happen." The worst part of me still craved it. That's what haunts me the most. Even in the middle of the shame, the self-loathing, the betrayal, I still crave the feeling of being wanted. Even if it was fake. Even if it cost me everything. Because for a guy like me, broke, desperate, invisible, sometimes the illusion of being wanted is enough to keep you hooked. Looking back now, I don't even know how to explain it. Was I a victim? Was I complicit? Was I both? All I know is that the rent got paid. My stomach wasn't empty. And my soul has never felt clean since. That first morning after, when I slipped back into my own apartment, I sat on the couch and stared at the envelope still on the counter. The money was there, crisp, folded, perfect. But I couldn't bring myself to touch it. Hours later, there was a knock at my door. My heart jumped into my throat. I opened it just a crack, and there she was, leaning casually against the doorframe. "You didn't spend it yet?" she asked, nodding toward the envelope. I didn't answer. She smirked. "That's the difference between you and most of the people in this building. They would have blown it already. But you think too much." "I don't want your charity," I muttered. Her smirk widened. "Who said anything about charity? You earned it." The way she said it made my skin crawl. But I didn't hand the money back. That was the first time I realized how easy it is to let yourself be owned, not by chains, but by choices you can't undo. I try to keep things normal. I went to work, clocked in my hours at the diner, smiled at customers like my world wasn't falling apart. But at night I was restless. One evening, Chris came by. He flopped onto my couch like he always used to, cracked open a beer from my fridge without asking, and said, "Man, you look like hell. You all right?" I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to unload the guilt and the shame and the mess I was drowning in. But instead, I just shrugged and said, "Just tired." He chuckled. "Same, bro, same." He had no idea that while he was sitting there, I could still smell her perfume on my skin. No idea that I'd sold pieces of myself I couldn't get back. Looking at him that night, I thought, at least I still have him. At least I still have Chris. God, how wrong I was. The night I caught them together, the sound of his laugh in her apartment broke something in me I didn't even know could break. I wanted to convince myself I hadn't seen what I saw, that it was just two people sharing a drink, nothing more. But the way she touched his hand, the way his body leaned into hers, it was the same script she'd used on me. Word for word. I didn't sleep for days after that. I kept replaying every memory of us, me and Chris. The stupid late-night drives, the times he spotted me gas money, the secrets we'd shared when we were too drunk to care. Had he been laughing behind my back all along? Or was he just as trapped as I was? I didn't know. And maybe I didn't want to know. When she blackmailed me into coming upstairs that night, the night Chris was waiting, I felt something inside me snap. I remember standing in her living room, the wine glasses already poured. Chris smirking like this was just some wild adventure. "What the hell is this?" I asked, my voice shaking. She just leaned back on the couch, crossing her legs, and said, "Relax. You owe me. Both of you do." Chris raised his glass toward me like we were toasting to something. "Don't look so serious, man. It's just fun. Fun." That's what he called it. But nothing about it was fun. It was humiliation. It was control. It was betrayal, wrapped in silk and wine and whispered lies. And the worst part, I didn't stop it. I couldn't stop it. Afterwards, I sat on the edge of my bed with the shower running, trying to wash it all off me. But no matter how hot the water was, I couldn't shake the feeling that my skin wasn't mine anymore. The mirror fogged over, and I caught my reflection. My hollow eyes, my clenched jaw, the stranger staring back at me. That's when it hit me. I didn't just lose a friend. I didn't just lose my pride. I lost myself. The weeks that followed were hell. I avoided Chris like he was a ghost, though sometimes I could feel him hovering outside my door, hesitating like he wanted to talk but never knocking. When we did cross paths in the hallway, he gave me this look, a mix of guilt and defiance. Like he knew what he'd done, but wasn't sorry enough to admit it. And her, she kept tightening the leash. Small comments slipped under my door, notes reminding me she could ruin me with a single word. Sometimes She didn't even have to say anything, just a glance in the hallway was enough to remind me who held the power. I drank more. I missed work. My life spiraled in ways I couldn't have imagined months before. And still, some nights, when I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I'd catch myself craving the way she made me feel, wanted, if only for a moment. That's the sickness of it. One night, Chris finally cornered me outside. I was fumbling with my keys when he said, "Man, we need to talk." I froze. "About what?" "You know what," he said quietly. His voice wasn't cocky this time. It was heavy, almost broken. I turned, glaring. "You knew, Chris. You knew what she was doing to me. And you still," my throat tightened, "you still went to her." He looked down, kicking at the concrete. "I didn't plan it, man. She pulled me in, same way she pulled you. That's your excuse." I snapped. "That you couldn't say no?" His jaw clenched, but he didn't answer. For a moment, we just stood there, two broken men tangled in the same web. And I realized something terrifying. Neither of us was free. I wish I could tell you I walked away, that I found the strength to pack my things, leave that building behind, and start over somewhere new. But the truth? I stayed longer than I should have. Every time I thought about leaving, that voice in my head whispered, "Where will you go? Who will take you in? Who will want you now?" And every time I stayed, I told myself it was about survival. But really it was about fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of facing myself. Fear of admitting that the person I hated most in this story wasn't her. Or even Chris. It was me. Because I let it happen. I chose silence. I chose comfort over courage. And years later, even after I finally walked away, even after I built a life where the rent is paid and the fridge isn't empty, the scars never faded. People talk about betrayal like it's something someone does to you. But sometimes, betrayal is the deal you make with yourself when you settle for less than your soul deserves. And I can't decide what haunts me more, what she did to me, or what I allowed myself to become. That's my secret. That's my sin. And it's one I'll carry forever.